Banshees of Inisherin. It takes place in Ireland. It's like the 1920s or something, 1930s, something like that. They're speaking in brogues. Like, does it qualify as recall piece theater?
I think it does. I think this is
okay. So so this will be another recall piece theater.
Little class.
Yeah, it's Kino. This
pure
is
Kino.
Pure Kino. Oscar bait. It got nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Did it win any?
I can't remember. I don't think.
Okay.
It was nominated for a ton, and I really thought the Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, they looked pretty disappointed when they didn't win.
It was a total Oscar movie, and again, like, we talked about, like, okay, we're gonna try and see as many of these Oscar movies as we can, and I didn't see that before I saw the Oscars, and then I watched the Oscars. And then I was, and again, it was still on my to-do list. And then, like, I finally watched it.
It's so great.
I enjoyed it from, like, the first moment. I had, like, a huge grin on my face. I was cracking up. It's super funny. It's, like, nonstop, like, hilarious. And then it takes a dark turn. But it, like, because I'm like, every fucking line of this movie is fucking hilarious. And I was actually reaching a point where I thought, like, maybe that's kind of working against this movie. Because it's like, it felt very weird to be watching a movie where every fucking moment I'm cracking up. And
I know.
It's like, oh, maybe this is a bad movie because I'm, like, laughing too, like, I'm having too much fun, like, and then it's like, oh, now I know why they were, like, tickling your ass with a feather so much, is because they're setting you up because it's going to go dark. So, like, have your fun
while you can,
because it's going to get dark.
I tell you what, the idea of an old friend just, like, calling off their, like, friendship is probably one of the, like, what a sad, it's one of the saddest, like, premises I can think of.
Matt, I have some bad news.
What is it, Tom?
We can't be friends anymore. And if you say one fucking word to me, I'm gonna cut off all my fingers.
I'm gonna cut my dick off.
That'll show you. But yeah, like, no, it was. And like, the way it proceeded was, like, so perfect too, because it's like, he can't possibly be serious. He can't possibly be serious.
I know.
And so he does, and then it like, and again, it's the same writer director as In Bruges, and it's got same cast, the two of them. And
another great movie.
Yeah, another great movie, and that is tonally very similar too.
Yes.
Funny movie, so much fun.
But dark.
Dark. Best friends who then kind of, like, turn against each other and stuff.
That's such a sad thing. A sad.
Yeah, you're
premise.
right. Like, it was very relatable, and it is kind of like, and it kind of great that he didn't really give him a good reason, at least not off the bat. He kind of and it's kind of like, it's interesting because, like, Colin Farrell, like, he, had his run as, like, a leading man. Like, now he's in more sort of character roles. And I hadn't seen him for a while. And then I saw him in Batman as the Penguin. And, like, I knew there was prosthesis involved. But I was kind of like, is that kind of what Colin Farrell looks like now? And like, it was so good, like, seeing him on the Oscars. And I was like, Colin Farrell still looks like Colin Farrell. Okay,
he
good.
let himself.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, like, how much of that is a prosthesis? Like, is that... Because I've seen people make that kind of change where it's like somebody you haven't seen like since before the pandemic, and then you see it and you're like, what happened? He's not really the like leading man roles. Like, he's not like the badass anymore. But it's like in Bruges and in this, he's kind of like a Jerry Lewis role. Like, he's kind of like the goof.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see that play out. Like he's kind of a dullard. Like, in both of the, he's kind of like a little bit dopey,
Brendan Gleeson's character is a musician.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not interesting, or.
Mm-hmm. You're uninteresting. You're a bore. Yeah. Oh, like, the thing I saw him most recently in was Paddington 2. So at least once a day, there's usually some situation where I say, marmalade time. So that's, but yeah, he's great. He's the marmalade time guy.
The last thing I saw Brendan, one of the last things maybe before this, was he was a bad guy in the movie Turbulence with Ray Liotta. He was doing a insane Southern accent.
Have you seen Paddington 2?
No.
Have you seen Paddington 1?
I haven't seen either of the
Paddingtons. I haven't seen Paddington 1, but then, like, Baba Booey was on the Howard Stern show talking about how, like, Paddington 2 was, like, the movie of the year, the best movie he's seen all year. So like I checked it out on his recommendation, and it was good. It did. And again,
Let's check it out.
and Hugh Grant was in Paddington, and he was really good in that too. So, but yeah, good movie, and yeah, Marmalade Time.
Very sad when you think that he's like gonna or he apologizes, or he's like, I'm sorry, but he's like, yeah, I sent the fiddler. Like, you think that they're gonna make amends every time. It just keeps going forward and forward.
Great example of escalating stakes in a movie, and how it does. You're really like pulled in. Like it takes you on this, real journey, but it's like the stakes ramp up in a really nice way.
And then Barry Keogh, I think he was the Dominic character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was really good. Like he was in. He plays like a similar character in a lot of movies. Like he was in The Green Knight.
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that? He was really good. He was just briefly in it, but he was really good. But it was kind of a similar role where it's like somebody where it's like, okay, what's this guy's deal? And then he was in Eternals also. He played
That's
Druig.
who he was.
He played Druig in the Eternals.
I get
In the Eternals, it's like, what's this kid doing in the Eternals? And then it's like in this, it's like, oh yeah, that kid Dominic and stuff. But then it's like he's like in his 30s,
I know,
but he does
young.
read as like like a teenager or something. I knew there was gonna be like a bad, like I knew it was gonna take a bad turn. Like I didn't, but like, because I wasn't paying that close attention to like certain bits of the Oscars, so it's like I kind of missed a lot of, and I was like very uninterested in the Banshees of Inisherin. Just the title was just kind of a turn off to me. It just sounded like that movie sounds like a snooze. But then I was like, oh, let me check it out. Like I was in the right, and then I was like blown away by it. So I knew there was a donkey in it and stuff. Like, and I knew there was like some dark stuff coming up, but I didn't realize like how dark it was gonna get. Yeah, it goes really dark, but it's just so much fun, so funny, and worth it. Like it's not like, oh man, why'd you take me on this dark journey? It's like the whole trip is worth it.
Martin McDonagh, I think, is the writer, director. He's like a playwright. So this definitely could be. It has a play like stage kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I mean it's very dialogue driven, and again, like the dialogue's hilarious. Like it's so, and again, almost to a detriment. Like so hilarious and so perfectly written that there are a couple moments where it's like, okay, there's got to be some boring parts. Like there's got to be some, but it's like it's every line is hilarious, and beautiful setting. Like found the perfect setting, and I didn't even realize it was like a period piece because it just seemed like they're living on this kind of remote island
out of time.
Yeah, out of time where not, and then it's like there's a you see the calendar and it's a specific date, and then there's like April Fool's Day, which kind of plays into the story, and then it's like right around the start of the Troubles, in Ireland. And so, like, as it went on, like, the story got so crazy that I thought, like, okay, this can't just be a story. This has to be some kind of, like, allegory or symbolic thing. And so I'm trying to, like, what could this be talking about? And it's like, maybe, like, and again, like, my go-to thing is, like, okay, maybe the two main characters represent, two halves of the same psyche. Where it's, like, somebody who wants to has these aspirations towards like academia or like musical greatness or whatever, and is uncomfortable with their sort of like provincial upbringing and is trying to distance it. And so I'm like, maybe that's what it is. And then as it went, I thought like, oh, okay, like it couldn't be more obvious than if it bit me. It's supposed to be like an allegory for like the Troubles, where it's kind like the British and the Irish, like the Northern Irish and the IRA, it's kind of like that. It's like a little tiny version of that, where it's like these two that are kind of at war with each other. And again, like there's a couple lines that kind of tip you off to that, where oh, you almost sound English when he like little things like that.
I'm definitely gonna rewatch it, and I like. And really get to like soak it in.
Yeah, because it is what like that's one of the things that like allegory. Like that's one of the techniques is that you kind of plant things within the story that kind of start to push it out of the realm of like, oh yeah, this is something that could happen. It's like when it starts to push out of that realm, it's kind of a hint that like, oh, maybe this is about something else. Maybe it's not like literally about what I'm literally watching. Maybe there's some like allegorical content to it. Maybe this is like a metaphor for something else. And so,
I think that Colin Farrell, like anybody from that movie, could have won an Oscar.
It was great, and again, like they probably do feel robbed, but it's like maybe enough of the Academy didn't even see it, you know?
Yeah, who knows? Because I didn't know about it until it kind of like snuck up on me as well. Mm-hmm. And like this is a great addition to the Total Recall Piece theater canon here.
We're just a couple of yokels.
Oh,
maybe Banshees of Inisherin isn't like masterpiece or Recall Piece theater material, but like it's like okay, it's a foreign movie. Like that's enough. And maybe these movies are just pulpy trash. And so it's like, this is fancy. This sure seems fancy.
We have like...
let me put on my Sunday go to meeting duds and watch.
I've got like a shirt that says it's like cat or caterpillar. My belt on. I'm like, woohoo, gonna go see Jaw. I'm like...
let's go to a fancy restaurant.
There's Michelin star. You think we get a coupon for some tires after that? Or
some tars?
Some tars?
Yeah, the movie Tar in Pittsburgh, they have to tell people it's not about a tire. It's hey, tar, it's about tar. I'll need some new tars.
Hey, you got any white walls on there? I got some new tars from my... Yeah, it's like because it has a symphony.
Yeah, it's like, well, this must be like this must be high art because it's got a symphony orchestra and somebody's doing this. You know, it's like okay, that's high art. That's
the highest art you can achieve.
Yeah, it's like
it's a one Michelin tire star restaurant. I think it's a must see if you're looking for a good flick this year. You got
and if you stop at the halfway point, it's just like a laugh a minute comedy. Like it's just a great comedy. And again, like the dark turn that it took, it was fine with me. Like it wasn't like, oh man, this movie's a bummer. Like it was just all perfect. It was just perfect all the way through.
Great tone.
Great tone.
The Michelin Man.
Like because it does slowly, it descends into darkness and stuff, but it is
perfect
like,
pace.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we're gonna the conductor.
And they like Colin Farrell, like he's just kind of got this like clueless look on his face, and so he does his best to sell like this very extreme premise. Like you do almost feel like you could be like say to him like, look, dude, I don't. If you say another word to me, I'm cutting all my fingers off. You know, like he does have that face of like, you know, he is playing it like I could see how somebody who's like known this guy since he was a kid could get sick of him to the point of like ready to like tear his hair out.
If you say one more word to me, I'm gonna shave my ass.
You know, there's even the point where it's like there is a possibility of escape. Like, you know, because this is sort of like a genre of like, you know, these people caught up in these small town world, and it's like if they could just get out of this small town, they'd be able to find a nice life somewhere else, but they're so caught up in there, which again is, you know, part of like the metaphor of this, you know, sort of caught up in like, you know, grudges and things like that. And like he does have an opportunity where he could escape, like his sister kind of is like, you know, moves out and she's like, hey, come to the city with me. It's awesome here. You got a place to stay. And he like refuses it. Like he, you know, he has his out, but it's like, no, I'm going down with this ship. You know,
I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I enjoy, like you told me about it a while ago, like when we were first doing our like Oscar picks episode. You were saying you saw it, but again, like I just wasn't speaking to me. You know,
you got to be in the mood to set it into motion.
I mean, just pressing play was enough. Like it was like once the movie started, I was all in. But it was just like hard, you know, just the name. It's like, man, that sounds pretty pretentious. You know, okay, this is a sequel to Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Is that what this is? You know. So this has been another installment of Recall Piece Theater. I'm Tom Scioli, author of I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And in the show notes below, you'll find a pre-order link that you can follow to pre-order that book. And at that same link, you can also pre-order the softcover edition of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And please follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli and on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
Follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And you can support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Tom Scioli. If you join up, you'll have full access to the archives there, as well as access to new drawings and comics as I post them.
Follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
And we'll see you next time for Recall Piece Theater.
Yeah, it plays like Dude, I thought anything on Masterpiece Theater when I was little was
yeah, and a lot of the stuff on there was just like trash.
It was
just like
trash.
But it's trash with like British accents. You know, it would be hilarious if like it's Masterpiece Theater and then it's like an episode of Are You Being Served? Would you care for a raspberry? You got a pipe that's blowing bubbles. And an ascot. And
it's playing that trash.
Mr. Humphreys, are you free?